Chapter 4. We gathered in the loading bay at dusk beside the Humvees as the patrols prepared to move out. The soldiers all around us busily prepped their vehicles and checked their weapons. Our radios are being jammed. I reiterated Winter's plan to the others in our group. We go to a radio station. There's one on top of that new tower at 6th Street in Boston. KBKX used to broadcast from there. That's our first target. Lopez will secure something called a radio frequency spectrum analyzer. There are broadcast transmitters on the roof. We'll check those too. With the analyzer, we can locate the source of the Zom jammers. Then we knock it out, Connor said. And then we reestablish radio communications with Tinker, Lopez finished. Oh man, Wilcox said as he looked at me. Do you have a problem, Wilcox? I said. No, man, at least we have some girls here to hold our hands, he laughed. Knock it off, Lopez ordered. You didn't see her last night. She's good. Good at what? Shut up, Wilcox. You're my demo man. I need you to plant the explosive when we find the transmitter. She let the zombies in. Not on purpose, and you would have done the same. She's mission lead on this job. That's an order. So she's the boss? Mission lead. What's that make you? Tactical lead. You do what I say and you listen to her. If that's not okay with you, I can find someone else to handle the explosives. Wilcox's eyes opened wide as he glanced from one of us to the other, seemingly looking for group consensus. His mouth gaped open, revealing blackened teeth from chewing tobacco, but he didn't object further. He was a damn mouth breather. We're gonna kick some zombie ass, Lopez said. I smiled at Lopez and finished my speech. Everyone got ammo, food, water, night vision goggles? This should take only a few hours. The tower is 10 blocks from here, southeast, and then we go to the jammer if we can find it. You all planned on 2 days just in case? Everyone nodded. We have radios? Radios don't work. Wilcox's lips curled up into a smirk. We'll need at least 2 to test with once we knock out the jammer, I said. Get 4. Wilcox sneered at me. Jill and Connors left immediately for the quartermaster and secured 4 radios that were known to be working a week ago. Lopez, Jill, Connors, and I got saddled with the extra weight in our packs when they got back. You got enough explosives, Wilcox? Lopez asked. Mines and C4 plastique. You got detonators? Yep, remote detonators. Radios don't work. Get 50 feet of wire and... Yep, Wilcox scowled at Lopez as he turned and slowly walked towards the armory. Double time, Lopez added. Wilcox broke into a trot. It was almost time to go. The sun was on the horizon and the light fading. The occasional zombies that our rooftop snipers picked off for fun during the day normally retreated indoors at night. We waited for the patrol to roll out. Presently, 2 Humvees started their engines when one of the drivers yelled, Hey Lopez, last chance for a free ride. Lopez looked me in the eyes before turning to the driver and saying, No, the zombs are attacking at night. You're the decoy. Drive slowly and then let them follow you north. Then we go south. Suit yourself. I got 5 of them last night outside the compound before the dog attack. Still can't believe they come out at night now. They're blind as bats without sonar, Lopez laughed. It was just 2 guys talking about killing zombies as if they were killing beers and watching football. Zombies attacking at night was a problem, I thought. These guys didn't even realize that the zombs were trying us out, testing us to see what we do at night, attacking our patrols at a time they never used to. Once, we could do whatever we wanted at night. The zombs owned the city during the day and hid at night. Our guys would clear the city, moving from building to building at nighttime. They found zombie holes and destroyed them. Then the zombies started moving each day. The leaders started laying tripwires and alarms. They built improvised explosives and armed mines to kill us in the evening. Then in the morning, they disabled them to avoid killing their own brain-dead minions. They used guns and body armor taken from our fallen. What the heck was I doing leading a bunch of kids into a nest of zombies? Everyone carried M4s except Jill and me. I had a knife on my belt and my .44 at my side, plus my Model 12 shotgun. Jill had a double-barrel 20 gauge with the bayonet fixed to the muzzle. The knife-like bayonet was ideal for close-quarters combat, and the 20 gauge was a light load, but I told her to aim for the center of mass and squeeze the trigger. It would kick a little, but it would do the job if she aimed. The armory sergeant told me that the rounds were special loads he handmade in his downtime. They were quartered slugs. A big melted and molded bullet that was split lengthwise into 4 sections. It was like firing 4 bullets with 1 shot. The armory also outfitted her with the same .32 semi-automatic that Jim had given me. She, like the rest of us, had a knife on her belt. How much ammo did they give you? I asked Jill. "There are 20 rounds in the box," she replied, "8 in the magazine. I have a second magazine, but I don't know how to switch it." "Let me show you," I said. "Keep it pointed away from anyone and your finger off the trigger like my dad taught us." She handed me the gun. Dropping the magazine, I showed it to her and pushed it back in. I did it again, showing her the thumb release button. "It will drop right out. Just let it hit the ground. In a fight, we don't need empties. When you put the fresh one in, you slide it up hard and hit it with the palm of your hand to make sure it's in there well." I showed her how to do that. "Then you pull the slide back like this and let it go hard and fast." I cycled the slide and the round in the chamber ejected onto the floor. A new round slid home. "What's that?" she asked as she picked up the ejected cartridge. The gun wasn't empty when I dropped the magazine. One round was still in the chamber. "That's the first one that fires when you pull the trigger." I asked her for another round and she dug the box out of her cargo pocket. She handed me a cartridge. "One more round will give you 9. I dropped the magazine, put the 2 rounds into it and ran it home. It's loaded now. You've got 9 rounds. 8 in the mag, 1 in the pipe." She picked up on new ideas quickly. "You got it. Your next magazine will have only 8. 8 shots and reload. Yes, don't forget to pull the slide back, and I always count the rounds as I fire them. You taught me that. You remember?" I wondered if she would remember it all when under fire. "One more thing. Click this lever down and now the safety is off. Just pull the trigger. Click it back up when you holster it. Let's not kill anyone by accident." The overhead doors started rolling up and the rattle of metal and chain broke our conversation. Wilcox came back at a run, a roll of wire in one hand and a switch block in the other. The Humvees rolled out the doors and down the parking lot, turning right at the street. There was gunfire as the doors rolled back down. The fight was starting early tonight. The doors didn't close all the way, stopping about 3 feet above the deck as the guards manning the chains motioned for us to duck underneath. As I crouched down, my shotgun slung across my back, the weapon caught on the door. I dropped to prone, rolled clear, and came back up on my feet in one smooth motion. Wilcox snickered, but I ignored him. Jill came behind me, followed by Lopez and the guys. We waited as the doors rolled the rest of the way down. We were 5 feet from home and several thousand yards left to go. My estimate didn't include the 50-story climb up some darkened stairwell with no electricity and maybe a couple hundred zombies. Outside, the air was clean and fresh. The sky was cloudless. The trees were glowing red and orange in the autumn evening light. It felt good to be outside. I enjoyed it when I remembered why we were there. Jim was missing, as was his entire team. That night was the beginning of a search and rescue mission, if we could stop the radio jamming and if anyone was still alive to be rescued. Lopez said, "Let's move," and we all started jogging across the parking lot. We turned west, then south as we moved between rows of abandoned cars, abandoned by civilians and soldiers when the military fortified the hospital a year ago. All those cars were drained of gasoline and oil for the hospital generators. We ducked low and moved fast. Lopez and Escobar were in front, Connors and Wilcox in the middle. Jill and I took up the rear. I unslung my Model 12 and fingered the release that allowed me to pump the slide back. I slid it back just far enough to see if there was a shell in the chamber. There was one. I whispered to Jill, as much as one can whisper while jogging, for her to check her guns. She broke open the side-by-side to put 2 shells in the breech. She had a pocket full of extra 20-gauge shells. Checking our guns slowed us a little, causing us to fall back from the others. Better to be late and loaded than early and empty. The gunfire from the night patrol faded into the distance. We were alone. Jill and I sprinted to keep up with the guys, never forgetting we needed to pull our own weight or they'd never respect us. We didn't see or hear a thing as we jogged. No birds sang, no crickets creaked. A pervading silence filled the night, broken only by distant sporadic gunfire. I'd have to get used to hearing night fire as we slept, as the others slept, and I listened. Zom attacks came after dark now. It frightened me to lose the only part of the day we knew we were free and safe. It chilled me knowing that the men going on patrols were subject to attack at any time. Too many times in the past, alongside Dr. Scarborough, Felix, and the other medical staff, Jill and I tended to the wounded. We had seen what the Zom could do. Gunshot wounds, glass and metal shrapnel from homemade bombs, bite and claw marks. No one ever spoke of it, but those marks were a death sentence. The wounded knew it too. Some victims of the zombies begged to be killed. Others begged us to let them kill themselves. Every wounded victim was quarantined. Those with bites or scratch marks and those who survived hand-to-hand combat with Zoms were guarded closely. During my stint in quarantine, when Jill and I first came to Fort Tulsa, we learned that the guards were ordered to kill patients who became violent. They watched the victims for the telltale green and yellow bruises and blood-filled eyes, to see if the victims developed cold sores or if their skin began to grow lumps or pus-filled sores. Enough men, good men, going insane with the virus had been put down like rabid dogs. It made me sick. It made me tired. I'd had enough. This war needed to end, and I returned to the fight after many months inside the security of the hospital. End of chapter 4.